filosofia deles. Eles são Hare Krishnas e também Straight Edge. Mas eles vão estar falando sobre isso e sobre outras coisas também. Eles estão aqui no Brasil fazendo uma série de shows pelo país. Já passaram por lugares como Santos, Goiânia, Salvador, Rio de Janeiro e outros também. Nesse final de semana eles vão estar se apresentando em São Paulo e domingo eles vão partir para Belo Horizonte. Eles deram uma passada aqui pelos nossos estúdios e a gente vai ver agora um pedacinho deles falando exatamente sobre os shows. Olha só.
In the interview for MTV Brazil, you said that it was good to be well ranked in our countdown because the new message will be diffused. So how do you expect of your message being received here in Brazil, a so different country than yours?
We don't know because no one speaks English around here. We can't tell if they like us or hate us.
I think they will like it. What do you expect from your gigs and your public here in Brazil?
So far, we got so much feedback, and we got so many. We just did like a in-store record thing in Rio, and it was just when we got off the bus, it was just packed with kids. So we didn't know what to expect, and even actually when we got off the airplane, there was all these people waiting for us, and even the Krishna guys were there playing drums for us and throwing flowers at us. It was such a warm welcome. We're never gonna forget Brazil.
Daqui a pouco a gente vai ver mais trechos da entrevista com o Shelton, Straight Edge, que prega o não uso de nenhum tipo de droga e não ter sexo fácil. Aí eles juntaram essa filosofia à religião Hare Krishna. Inclusive, eles entraram em contato com Hare Krishna depois de uma passagem que eles tiveram pela Índia. Você confere agora os próprios caras falando sobre isso. Inclusive, o recap tem uma historinha bastante interessante. Olha só.
How did you get into the Hare Krishna's philosophy?
We, because of Straight Edge, we were into, we became vegetarians. We got into natural foods and natural medicine. And then that got us into more holistic type of living. And then we started studying religion. And then started studying yoga in New York City. And then went to India to study there.
So in India, you realized that you had to be a Hare Krishna?
In India, I realized that without a spiritual side to my life would become really unbalanced. I already knew that. Just I think everybody sort of realizes that deep down.
What happened there? What happened there? Interesting things.
Actually, I had an incredible experience the first time. One was I got really sick, and I mean incredibly sick to the point of like I thought I was going to die. And then
why? What happened to you?
I don't know. I just woke up one day with this like fever, like a fever I can't explain. A fever I never had, so high, and my body was sore all over, and I couldn't move. And just being in that position of thinking, God, you could die at any second, it makes you realize the temporality of the body. And when you understand that the whole world is temporary, and that ultimately, if you're not dying today, you're going to die sometime, it makes you start thinking, well, what do I really want out of life? What's the goal out of life? Is the goal just, to be cool or to be famous for a few days? What's the actual goal? So, because it was I'm not saying I'm not glorifying India per se because there's Delhi and Bombay, but we go to like holy villages and cities, and there you get surrounded by, saintly people, men and women, and, old temples, and, living naturally with their cows, and it's just that the whole environment is surcharged with a type of, like a spiritual essence. So it like you take on that mood too. And I know when I got back to New York City, I still felt like I had that high, and I was just,
I've heard that you don't have sex like for 7 years. How is that?
That's great.
Why?
It's sort of a principle to control the senses. It's a yogic principle. By controlling the senses, we develop a type of freedom. For example, if we give in to the urges of the tongue, the bellies, and the genitals, then you lose a type of freedom because you're not often acting with your intelligence. You can see that in gross circumstances that I'm sure you probably know someone just follows their genitals around or follows their tongue around, and they lose a bit of themselves. So first, before we can realize that we're not this body, that we're spiritual, we have to bring the senses under our own control. And then we have to understand that actually I'm not a material body, I'm not a man, you're not a girl, we're both spirit souls. And through through meditation, through chanting, and controlling the senses, it helps you detach yourself from the body. And you can see, just like on a day, certain times we fast. And on a fasting day, when you know, today I'm not going to eat, you can watch your senses pull you, like I walk by the refrigerator, right? And you see, like your senses are pulling you in, but your intelligence always has to check it. So you start seeing things not as...
You select.
Yeah, you start seeing your intelligence separate from your mind, separate from your senses. And you can analyze it separate from you, because you're not the mind or the intelligence or the senses. You are a spiritual being, like controlling this machine.
So your belief is so
That's what
strong.
It's like, you know?
Your belief is so strong that it becomes bigger than any desire.
Well, what happens is, if you're really focused in on your meditation, and that becomes your pleasure, and that pleasure becomes, you start taking, in Sanskrit they say you become atmarama, or self-satisfied. You don't have to, in the material world we think, I've got to go here to be satisfied. Just like in New York it'll say, you know, fly to Brazil, come, you know, visit exotic Brazil. And in Brazil, I see signs say, come to New York, you know, and they have a picture of the Statue of Liberty, right? So people in their mind are always thinking, if I can just change my situation, I can be happy. If I can just go, and New York is want to go to California, California is want to go to New York, like that. But it's not actually that we have to change our physical situation. We have to actually change our consciousness, our mind. Because even if we go from New York and go to California, we're still taking the mind with us. So if our mind isn't peaceful, then we're not going to be peaceful in California, you know what I mean? So that's the spiritual process, is changing the consciousness.
You have a girlfriend, don't you?
Yes.
Is she Hare Krishna also?
Yep.
Yeah? That's great. But the album, Mantra, it's an Indian word, right? What does it mean?
Sanskrit word. Man means mind and tra means to deliver. So it's a sound vibration that can deliver the mind.
And this is a Brazilian version. And here, there are 2 bonus tracks.
2 extra songs that Americans don't have. See here? We do a Beatles song.
Yeah, tell me about the Beatles song. We can work it out.
Franklin?
How did you choose this song?
How did we choose that song, Frank?
It just came out of the blue. We never rehearsed it. We were on tour. We needed a good cover, and we just banged it
Came
out
up with it the day before.
But you are a Beatles fan, like really like?
We love the Beatles. Purcell hates them. But no.
Really?
He's the only one in the world who hates the Beatles.
And I've heard
We love the Beatles, and we think the song is very poignant. We can work it out. Just like you play so many shows, sometimes there's violence at shows, and I think when there's a violence at a Shelter show, it's the antithesis of what Shelter's about. So I feel like it was sort of poignant to play that type of,
Buy only Brazilian Shelter CDs.
Yeah.
And I've
Don't
heard
get
that.
cheated out of 2 songs.
And I've heard that this music, we can work it out. You dedicated it to George Harrison. Why?
George Harrison is also, he's into Krishna and spirituality. Matter of fact, he donated his entire estate in the 70s to our teacher, Prabhupada, Swami Prabhupada. And so now in England, whenever we go there, we're invited to give classes there, and there's, you know, students who live there, and like monks and boys and girls. And it's like this beautiful estate outside of London. So I just missed George Harrison by 1 day. We just got back from India, and he was there. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, he was working on an album with Ravi Shankar, and I was just coming in for rock and roll detox. And yeah, just missed him by 1 day.
Director.
Michael Lucero will probably direct it. He was the one that did the Shelter video. He did this.
Here we go.
He did Here We Go, and he did this the new Doggy Dog video, the last Doggy Dog video, which won this MTV award in Europe, MTV.
Now tell me one thing. In the video, Here We Go, were you really hang upside down?
Yes, and they were all hitting me with sticks.
How
But
is
that's
that?
then cut that out of the video. No, they built this contraption. I got to hand it to Michael Lucero. He thought they built this thing, so I clamped on like a girdle or something, and they put these 2 cables. People thought it was all done with cameras, but it wasn't. It was real.
Yeah,
I was a real stunt man. We didn't call in extra people. And then I swung on this thing upside down, and so I was just swinging, and I could swing like this. Yeah, with 2 cables, and I'd hang from a pole, and it was not on the truck. It was all on the street, over the street, and that was hooked to a truck. You know, I was just hanging, so I was just like swinging, And then there was a camera like behind on the truck filming me getting hung over, right? So then they said, don't worry. And my head is like this far from the ground, right? It's real. And they said,
was it fast?
Well, they said, don't worry. We're just going around Soho. That's like downtown Manhattan. We're just going to keep it slow. So they were driving really slow. And I was singing, and you know, you have to lip sync it. You know, it's not real. We don't really perform. For all you people out there, you know, I have to lip sync, so they have to crank the music really loud, and then I'm screaming to the music. And it was the first day with the heat wave. Oh, yeah. It was so hot. It was like 95 degrees. And I was like, and this thing was really hot, too, and I had to wear a shirt over the thing because it was protecting me, and I was like, you know, almost passing out. Right, and then singing. And then all of a sudden, they turned up 6th Avenue and stepped on the gas, and we were flying. I was going, ah! And that's when, if you look on the video, and all the cabs are cutting in, I mean, it was sort of scary.
Many people there watching.
Oh, yeah. Every time we hit a red light, I would be like, and all these people were like, ah! Yeah, it was really fun to make, though. But I got really sick afterwards. It's not natural to be hung upside down for more than 10 minutes. Breathing. I was just scared they were going to run over something and get, you know, a cat or something and hit me in the face. But anything.
Then we got back to the temple that night, and some of the devotees came in. They go, I could have sworn that I saw Ray upside down today in Manhattan.
Hanging from a truck.